Every major power understands one simple reality. Your neighbors are your biggest strategic and economic opportunity. Just look at the United States. Despite being a global superpower, two of its largest trading partners are its neighbors, Canada and Mexico. The same principle applies to India. Strong ties with countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and even Pakistan can create larger markets for Indian businesses while simultaneously strengthening India's strategic influence in South Asia. But what happens when those neighbors begin drifting towards your biggest geopolitical rival? That is exactly what appears to be happening today, as China steadily expands its footprint in Bangladesh at India's expense. Let's discuss this in detail. After recent tensions with Nepal, where Prime Minister Balen Shah declined to meet Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and raised several border-related issues with India, it is now Bangladesh that appears to be drifting further away. The government led by Tarique Rahman has signed an agreement with a Chinese state-owned company to develop the strategically important Mongla Port. While India remains focused on rebuilding ties with Bangladesh following the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government, China has quietly stepped in to fill the strategic space that New Delhi appears to have left vacant. And the latest development should concern the policymakers in New Delhi. Bangladesh Prime Minister Tarique Rahman chose China for his first official foreign visit after assuming office. During that visit, Dhaka signed an agreement with a Chinese state-owned company to develop a special economic zone near the strategically important Mongla Port. At first, this may look like just another investment agreement, but it is far more significant than that. The proposed economic zone is being built on the very same 110-acre parcel of land that was originally allocated to India. Following the sharp deterioration in India-Bangladesh ties under Mohammad Yunus's interim administration, Dhaka removed India from the project and handed the opportunity to Beijing. That alone tells you how dramatically the geopolitical equations have changed. Mongla is not an ordinary port. It is Bangladesh's second largest port after Chattogram and lies barely 188 kilometers from Kolkata, close to the ecologically sensitive Sundarbans and India's eastern coastline in the Bay of Bengal. China now plans to develop manufacturing units, warehouses, logistics facilities around the port, thereby establishing a long-term commercial presence at one of the most strategically located maritime gateways in the region. Now, why should this matter to India? For two reasons. First, India has effectively lost a strategic infrastructure project that it had spent years negotiating. Second, and perhaps the most important, it provides China another foothold in the Bay of Bengal region, a region that India has traditionally considered part of its natural sphere of influence. Now, let me make one thing very clear. Developing an economic zone or investing in a port does not automatically translate into establishing a military base. But China's record over the past few decades have made many countries cautious. From Gwadar in Pakistan to Djibouti in the Horn of Africa, Beijing has steadily expanded its maritime footprint through commercial port investments. Today, Chinese companies are associated with nearly 17 port projects across the Indian Ocean region. Many strategic experts argue that while these ports begin as commercial ventures, they can eventually provide logistical support, intelligence capabilities, and strategic access for Chinese interests. Whether one agrees with that assessment or not, the concern is real. Obvious question then is, how did India lose this project? Ironically, India had recognized Mongla's strategic importance long before China entered the picture. Back in 2015, during Sheikh Hasina's tenure, India and Bangladesh signed a memorandum of understanding to establish two special economic zones, one at Mongla and another at Mir Sarai in Chattogram. India also extended a line of credit to support Bangladesh's infrastructure ambitions. Dhaka wanted to transform Mongla into a modern commercial port capable of complementing Chattogram, while both countries worked together to strengthen regional connectivity, including the construction of the Mongla-Khulna railway line. 3 years later, in 2018, Narendra Modi government selected the Hiranandani Group to develop the Mongla project. By 2022, a formal agreement had also been signed with the Bangladesh Economic Zone Authority. Everything appeared to be moving in the correct direction. Then, Bangladesh's political landscape changed overnight. Mass student protests erupted against Sheikh Hasina in 2024, eventually forcing her to leave the country and seek refuge in India. The interim administration, led by Mohammad Yunus, adopted a markedly different approach towards New Delhi. Anti-India narrative gained momentum within Bangladesh, with several political and Islamist groups accusing the previous government of being excessively close to India. As bilateral ties deteriorated, the Mongla project stalled. In 2025, Bangladesh officially removed India from the project, arguing that the Indian developer had failed to begin construction within the agreed timeline. Whether administrative delays were the real reason or whether geopolitics played a larger role is something analysts will continue to debate. What is undeniable, however, is that China recognized the opportunity almost immediately. The Chinese embassy in Dhaka approached the Bangladesh government with a proposal to develop a Chinese economic zone on the exact same land that had originally been reserved for India. And during Tarique Rahman's visit to Beijing, that proposal was formally approved. But the Mongla project is not the only issue causing concern in New Delhi. Bangladesh has also agreed to deepen cooperation with China on the Teesta River project. For decades, the Teesta has remained one of the most sensitive issues between India and Bangladesh because of unresolved water sharing disputes. Despite those disagreements, Sheikh Hasina consistently preferred India to participate in conservation and management efforts of the river. That equation too now appears to be changing. China's growing involvement is particularly significant because the Teesta Basin lies close to India's Siliguri corridor, better known as the Chicken's Neck, a narrow 22-kilometer stretch of land connecting mainland India with its 8 northeastern states. Any increase in Chinese strategic presence near that corridor naturally raises security concerns in New Delhi. Taken together, the Mongla Port project and the Teesta initiative point towards a gradual but unmistakable shift in Bangladesh's foreign policy priorities. To be fair, China has long been Bangladesh's largest trading partner, so closer economic cooperation between the two countries is hardly surprising. The real question, therefore, is not whether Bangladesh will engage with China. It certainly will. The real question is whether India can regain the strategic space it appears to have lost over the past 2 years. And the Mongla port is not an isolated development. It is part of a much larger strategic picture unfolding across India's neighborhood. Since we are speaking about the Bay of Bengal and China's growing maritime footprint, it is worth looking at another development that has received far less attention. For the first time since the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, Pakistan is reportedly planning to deploy submarines in the Bay of Bengal. That by itself is a significant strategic development because the Bay of Bengal has traditionally remained an area where India's naval dominance has largely gone unquestioned. Now imagine this alongside China's expanding economic footprint in Bangladesh, its growing role in the Teesta project, and its increasing influence across the Indian Ocean. The strategic picture begins to look very different. Ironically, all this is unfolding at a time when India is investing billions of dollars in the Great Nicobar project. Beyond its economic significance, the project is expected to emerge as one of India's most important naval and logistics hubs in the Indian Ocean. Its location is no coincidence. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands overlook some of the world's busiest sea lanes, including the Malacca Strait, a maritime choke point through which 80% of China's crude oil imports pass. For India, this is a natural strategic advantage, but that advantage also explains why China is steadily trying to expand its presence elsewhere in the Bay of Bengal. Because geopolitics is rarely about controlling one location. It is about denying your rival uncontested influence. And that is precisely what appears to be happening today. Nor is it only China that is drawing closer to Bangladesh. Even Pakistan's relationship with Dhaka has undergone a visible transformation. One of the clearest indications came when Pakistan transferred a fully operational JF-17 Thunder Block 3 combat simulator to Bangladesh, strengthening speculation that Dhaka may eventually procure the fighter aircraft itself. At a time when India-Pakistan relations remain deeply strained, in the aftermath of the Operation Sindoor, such military cooperation between Pakistan and Bangladesh cannot simply be dismissed as a routine defense transaction. Viewed together, China's growing strategic presence, Pakistan's renewed military engagement with Bangladesh, and an increasingly adversarial posture from Nepal raise uncomfortable questions for New Delhi. For a country that aspires to be South Asia's leading power, the regional strategic environment appears to be becoming more challenging rather than more favorable. And Bangladesh is not the only place where India appears to have lost strategic ground. Another example lies thousands of kilometers away in Central Asia. India's exit from any airbase in Tajikistan marks the end of what was once India's only overseas military base. Aini was strategically important because it allowed India to maintain a presence in a region overlooking Afghanistan, Western China, and the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Reports suggest that over time, Tajikistan became increasingly reluctant to extend India's presence, with China and Russia playing an important role in shaping that decision. Whether entirely accurate or not, the symbolism is difficult to ignore. From Bangladesh to Central Asia, India appears to be ceding strategic space while China continues to expand its influence through infrastructure, investments, diplomacy, and defense partnerships. None of these developments, taken individually, may appear transformational, but geopolitics is rarely shaped by a single event. It changes gradually, one port at a time, one military partnership at a time, one strategic outpost at a time. And perhaps this is the larger lesson from the Mongla Port. For years, India believed its geography only guaranteed influence in its neighborhood. Today, China is demonstrating that in modern geopolitics, influence is not inherited by geography. It is earned through consistent diplomacy, timely investments, and strategic execution. That's all for today's report. Till I see you next time with another topic in hand. Thanks for watching.